In 1928, a man named Edward Bernays published a book simply titled Propaganda. It was not a warning, it was an operating manual. Bernays, the nephew of Sigmund Freud, realized a terrifying truth about human nature. The masses do not think, they only feel. And if you can control what they feel, you can control exactly how they live, what they buy, and who they obey. Right now, you are sitting inside a psychological architecture designed by people like Bernays. If you want to stop being manipulated by society, you have to understand that your desires, your outrage, and your anxieties are not accidents. They are products. Every time you open an app, read a headline, or feel an inexplicable urge to buy something you do not need, you are executing a script written by a system that profits off your predictable reactions. You think your thoughts are your own. They aren't. In this video, we are going to tear down that architecture. I am going to give you the exact 5-step psychological roadmap to rewire your mind, detach from the herd, and reclaim your sovereignty. We will dissect the dark psychology used against you, study the historical figures who beat the system, and provide ruthless, actionable protocols you can implement immediately. If you want to master your mind and stop being controlled by your impulses, subscribe to Prime Instinct. Now, let us begin with the first chain you must break.
The system relies on a very specific illusion, the illusion of independent choice. You believe you chose your career, your political beliefs, and your lifestyle because you arrived at those conclusions logically. You did not. The psychological reason for this is rooted in the concept of manufactured consent. Society does not control you by putting a gun to your head. It controls you by curating the menu of options you are allowed to choose from. When society controls the inputs, it guarantees the outputs. To understand the depth of this manipulation, we must look at a masterstroke of psychological warfare executed in 1929. In the early 20th century, there was a strict social taboo against women smoking in public. The tobacco industry was losing out on half the population's money. They hired Edward Bernays to fix it. Bernays didn't run an advertisement about the taste of cigarettes. That is amateur level. Instead, he consulted psychoanalysts. He framed cigarettes as torches of freedom. During the 1929 Easter Sunday parade in New York, he paid a group of high society women to march down Fifth Avenue and simultaneously pull out cigarettes and light them in front of secretly hired photographers. He hijacked the legitimate emotional desire for women's liberation and attached it to a toxic, addictive product. The photos hit the front page of every newspaper in the country. Within weeks, the taboo was broken. Women weren't just buying cigarettes, they were buying rebellion. They had been completely manipulated, but they felt empowered. This is happening to you right now. You are sold outrage masked as justice. You are sold consumerism masked as self-care. Here is exactly how you implement this today. You must initiate a ruthless information fast. The only way to spot the manipulator's hand is to step out of the casino. For the next 30 days, you are to consume 0 news, 0 algorithmic feeds, 0 trending topics. You must starve the parasite. If a piece of information does not directly help you build your business, improve your health, or deepen your understanding of timeless philosophy, block it. But curating your feed will not save you if you remain vulnerable to the emotional triggers society uses to keep you off balance. Which leads us to the second and perhaps most dangerous mechanism of control.
Chapter 2. Decouple from manufactured urgency. Modern society runs on the fuel of perpetual emergency. Look at the headlines. Look at your notifications. Everything is breaking news. Everything is a crisis. Everything demands your immediate emotional reaction. If society can keep you in a constant state of hyper-arousal and panic, you will never have the cognitive bandwidth to step back and question the nature of your reality. When you are in a state of panic, your brain undergoes an amygdala hijack. The primitive, fear-based center of your brain overrides your prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for logic, long-term planning, and critical thinking. A population trapped in the amygdala is easily led. They will accept any loss of freedom, any financial burden, and any absurd mandate as long as the authorities promise to make the panic stop. Look at the data. Extensive psychological studies on media consumption correlate high exposure to the 24-hour news cycle directly with learned helplessness, clinical anxiety, and a total loss of internal locus of control. To break this manipulation, we must look backward to the year 68 AD to a man named Epictetus. Epictetus was not born a philosopher, he was born a slave in the Roman Empire. He had no rights, no property, and no physical freedom. His master, Epaphroditus, was known to be incredibly cruel. One day, out of sheer sadism, his master began twisting Epictetus's leg in an iron torture device. Most men would scream, beg, or panic. Epictetus calmly looked at his master and said, "If you continue, you will break my leg." The master kept twisting until the bone snapped. Epictetus, without shedding a tear, simply said, "Did I not tell you it would break?" Epictetus realized the ultimate truth of human sovereignty. The world can break your body, society can manufacture chaos, but no one can force you to interpret an event as an emergency unless you grant them permission. He cultivated apatheia, not apathy, but the total eradication of irrational emotional disturbance. Here is exactly how you implement this today. Institute the 72-hour rule. Whenever society tells you to panic about a new crisis, a market crash, or a trending outrage, do absolutely nothing for 72 hours. Do not post about it. Do not discuss it. Do not alter your life. Watch how quickly the world-ending emergency evaporates and is replaced by the next manufactured distraction. Yet, escaping the urgency loop only gives you the luxury of time, but that time is entirely wasted if you are spending it chasing goals that aren't even yours. Which brings us to the silent killer of human authenticity in Chapter 3. Chapter 3. Assassinate mimetic desire. You think you know what you want. You think you want a luxury car, the prestigious job title, the specific aesthetic of your apartment, and the perfect partner. You are wrong. You do not want those things. You merely want to be wanted. The French polymath René Girard uncovered the core software code of human motivation, a concept he called mimetic desire. Girard proved that human beings do not possess autonomous desires. We do not know what to value, so we look at the people around us and copy their values. We desire things simply because other people desire them. Society uses mimetic desire as a leash. Corporations don't sell you a product, they sell you the envy of your peers. Educational institutions don't sell you knowledge, they sell you a status symbol to lord over your neighbors. As long as your desires are mimetic, you are a puppet. You will spend your entire life exhausting your energy to acquire trophies in a game you never actually wanted to play, ending up wealthy, exhausted, and fundamentally hollow. To see the antidote, we must look to the streets of ancient Athens and the legendary philosopher Diogenes the Cynic. Diogenes recognized the absolute absurdity of mimetic desire. While the citizens of Athens exhausted themselves trying to buy bigger houses and finer robes to impress people they hated, Diogenes chose to live in an empty clay wine jar in the marketplace. When Alexander the Great, the most powerful, wealthy, and successful man in the known world, came to visit Diogenes, he found the philosopher sunning himself. Alexander, standing over him, offered him anything in the world he desired: riches, cities, power. Diogenes looked up at the conqueror of the world and said, "Stand a little out of my sun." Alexander was a slave to mimetic desire. He conquered the world because he was desperate for the validation of history and the envy of other kings. Diogenes had conquered himself. When you require nothing from society to feel whole, society loses all leverage over you. Here is exactly how you implement this today. You must perform an origin audit on your life goals. Write down your top 3 ambitions. Now interrogate them ruthlessly. Where did this desire come from? Did I want this when I was 10 years old? Am I pursuing this because I love the daily suffering of the work, or am I pursuing this because of the applause I imagine I will get when I achieve it? If your desire requires an audience to be fulfilling, it is a mimetic trap. Drop it. But even if you manage to isolate your true, authentic desires, you will never have the biological energy to pursue them if your neurochemistry is being hijacked by the glowing rectangle in your pocket.
Chapter 4. Escape the Algorithmic Skinner Box. We must talk about the physical hijacking of your biology. Society no longer needs to manipulate you purely through ideas. It can now manipulate you directly through your dopamine baseline. In the 1950s, a behavioral psychologist named B.F. Skinner invented the operant conditioning chamber, now known as the Skinner Box. He placed a hungry pigeon inside a box with a small lever. If the pigeon pecked the lever, it would get a food pellet. But Skinner discovered something sinister. If he gave the pigeon a pellet every time it pecked, the pigeon would only peck when it was hungry. But if Skinner randomized the reward, sometimes the pigeon got a pellet, sometimes it got nothing, sometimes it got 3 pellets. The pigeon's brain broke. The psychological reason for this is called variable ratio reinforcement. The uncertainty triggered massive spikes of dopamine. The pigeon became hopelessly addicted to the act of pecking. It would peck the lever thousands of hours an hour, entirely ignoring its actual needs, sometimes pecking until it physically collapsed from exhaustion. Does this sound familiar? Pull to refresh, swipe to next video,
tap to check notifications. Silicon Valley did not invent the smartphone to help you communicate. They built a digital Skinner box. They utilized variable ratio reinforcement to enslave your dopamine receptors. When you are doom scrolling, you are the pigeon pecking at the lever, hoping for a random pellet of entertainment, outrage, or validation. A brain functioning on constantly depleted dopamine cannot focus, cannot build, and cannot resist manipulation. You are chemically subdued. Here is exactly how you implement this today. You must systematically dismantle the casino in your pocket. First, permanently turn your phone screen to grayscale. The human brain is evolutionarily wired to seek out bright, contrasting colors. Grayscale removes the visual dopamine hit of the UI. Second, delete every single application that features an infinite scroll. There is no moderation with a slot machine. You do not negotiate with a parasite, you sever it. Breaking the physical addiction to your phone is only the baseline requirement. To truly immunize yourself against societal control, you must pass the final and most psychologically terrifying test.
Chapter 5. The Cultivation of Active Solitude. The ultimate weapon of societal manipulation is the weaponization of loneliness. Humans are pack animals. For hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary history, being exiled from the tribe meant certain death by starvation or predators. Your nervous system is hardwired to equate social rejection with physical death. Society knows this, and it uses the threat of ostracization to force you into compliance. In 1951, Solomon Asch proved just how terrifyingly effective this is. In the Asch conformity experiments, a subject was placed in a room with a group of actors. The group was shown a line on a piece of paper and asked to match it to another line of the exact same length. It was an incredibly simple, obvious visual test. But the actors were instructed to confidently give the completely wrong answer. Look at the data from this experiment because it will chill you to the bone. When faced with a group confidently stating a lie, 75% of the genuine subjects caved to the pressure and agreed with the group. They literally denied what their own two eyes were seeing just to avoid the agonizing discomfort of standing alone against the herd. Society manipulates you by making the truth socially unacceptable. They will make you doubt your own sanity. They will tell you that up is down, that weakness is strength, and that sickness is health. And if you have not trained your mind to endure the pain of isolation, you will eventually nod your head and agree with the lie. The only defense against this is what we call active solitude. You must build an absolute psychological tolerance for being disliked, misunderstood, and alone. You must learn to be your own primary source of validation. Here is exactly how you implement this today. You will begin a practice of structured isolation. 1 hour a day. No phone, no music, no books, no people. Just you sitting in a quiet room with a pen and a blank notebook. At first, it will be agonizing. Your mind will race, your anxieties will flare, and you will feel an overwhelming urge to distract yourself. Sit through the fire. Once you push through the initial panic, you will meet the only person whose opinion actually matters, your true, unmanipulated self. When you are no longer terrified of being alone, society possesses nothing it can threaten you with. You become ungovernable. Society is a machine designed to extract your time, your attention, and your energy. It does not want you awake.
It does not want you strong, and it certainly does not want you free. The cage is invisible, but the bars are made of your own unchecked impulses and unquestioned desires. You now have the blueprint. The choice to walk out of the cell is entirely yours. Like this video to signal to the algorithm that you are demanding higher-level inputs. Subscribe to Prime Instinct to continue building a mind that cannot be broken. Now, click the video on your screen to learn the dark psychology of how the 1% manipulate wealth, and do not stop moving forward.